You're listening to Big Blend Radio's English Connection Show with Glenn Burrows, owner of Norfolk Tours. So, are you thinking of getting a second home or maybe moving to England? That is what we're talking about today on our English Connection show with Glenn. And I think Glenn is actually no stranger to taking Americans, Australians, people from other countries around in England to show them neighborhoods and help them find
Indeed.
places to live. And some people are doing it as an investment, even, right? Glenn, welcome. How are you?
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, in investment is always good. England is a very nice place to have a base, and you can always let it out when you're not using it. So, it's a win-win. It can bring money into you, and you can also use it as your holiday base. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So in
You could
England,
live
I mean,
here like me.
and yeah, yeah. Now, a lot of people, if you have a British passport or family with a British passport, you can do it. I don't know what all the legalities are really on like how to buy property and still be American. I don't know. I think you
Yeah,
can.
you can. You can. Yeah, you can buy property in England as a foreigner. There are rules and regulations about how long you can live in your property if
Mhm.
you're not English. But it's very simple to do and it's easy to find out, So I think that you can live in it for 6 months of the year anyway.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, if you wanted to, you could buy a small property like the ones behind you, um, come
Yeah.
over, come over sometime in England, a couple of months or whatever, and the rest of the year let it out to bed and breakfast or something.
Yeah, and I know some people, even when their kids go to college in England, they'll buy a flat because they go, well,
Yep.
let's just make it an investment,
Yeah.
and do
I
that.
mean, not being funny, the first extra house that we bought was for our daughter when she was away at university in Nottingham. And we decided that the properties that we were looking at for her to live in her second and third year were not very nice. So we thought, well, why don't we remortgage our house and buy a property in Nottingham? So that's what we did. And then, funnily enough, although she came back home again, probably a decade or more ago, she we kept it on and let it out to students, and actually we sold it last year for a
Oh,
nice little profit. So good
hey,
investment.
real estate is a good investment. And you were talking about you've got an article and everyone that's linked in the episode notes, or just go to blendradioandtv.com and type in, do you want to move to England? And you'll see Glenn's article there. But you were talking about that you and your daughter bought one up, like a property too. Is it the same property that used to be for prison inmates, like a halfway house?
Yes, it was. Yeah, my daughter and I bought it was a 7 bed halfway house. So it was just
Okay.
basically a 7 bed sits. And me and my daughter bought it in probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And we
Uh-huh.
turned it into three self-contained flats, and they've been let out non-stop ever since. So,
Wow.
it's
Uh-huh.
it's a good investment.
Mm. And so in England, I know like here in the States right now, rentals are really expensive. It's hard to get rentals. And it's just it's an interesting real estate is interesting over here right now. But
Hmm.
in England, it seems that you have such a diversity.
Oh,
We have
we
a lot
do.
of planned communities now and things like that. But it seems like England, you can still actually live in a piece of history and even be out in the countryside. That's that idyllic thing where we all want to have a little farm,
Oh, yeah.
but still work, on our computers and,
Yeah.
maybe go to the city, once a week or something, or maybe never,
Yeah.
depending
I
on who
mean,
you are.
it is so easy in England because, as I find really difficult to get the scale of America. But when you look at England, I mean, Diane and I drove up to Scotland not last week, the week before. We went to Glasgow. Now, from here to Glasgow is sort of like one end of the country to the other, but it was only 8 hours to
Mm.
drive. So I mean, I can drive to London in 2.5 hours from
Oh,
here.
wow.
I can get the train for an hour and a half. It's only an hour and a half into London by train. So you can live anywhere in England and you are within reach of anywhere within a few hours driving. So
Mm.
actually, there is nothing stopping anybody from working anywhere and living somewhere else. But then
And
again,
you have a lot.
you
I was
don't
going to
need
say,
to live anywhere now, do you?
well,
You can
no, I
live,
think
you can work at home.
that's the thing. If you want to have a second place, you can do that now and work remotely depending on your career.
Of
And
course.
people are doing that. It's like, let's rather invest and because you are going to get a return on real estate pretty much. I mean, that's one thing and
It's almost guaranteed, you know.
well,
Houses don't go down over a period of time. Houses have never gone down over a period
mm,
of time. Obviously, from one month to the next, they might go down. But if you look at an investment for, I don't know, a decade, houses are going to generally go up nearly a double in price. You know,
yeah.
so
Well, you have to know the neighborhood here for
yeah,
sure
of
too.
course, yeah,
And that's where I think it helps to have like someone like you, Glenn, who knows the neighborhoods and can take people around.
yeah.
I think it's always good to also spend the night in the neighborhood that you're looking at,
Oh yeah, oh, yeah,
so that way you can see what's the behavior like at nighttime. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That kind of thing for
yeah, of
crime,
course.
security. But England, your crime is a little bit less, I think. You know,
Well, I mean,
every place has its thing, but
everybody, will say, that, "Oh, you don't want to go there because of this, and you don't want to go." But I've never really seen major crime ever,
mm,
and I've been in inner cities and I've been, all over the place in England. But generally speaking, England is a safe place, and
mm,
it's a good idea to be in a property more than just popping in and having a look, So if you can be
mhm,
in the area, be in the village, be in the town, stay for a couple of days, see what it's like at night, see what it's like when it's raining, see what it's like when it's sunny, see what it's like on a Saturday evening. It's just good to get an all-round view of a place, And
mm.
yeah, I've helped quite a few people to buy properties because, well, I had one man who came here from abroad. He wanted to buy a really nice place, but he wanted it in the middle of nowhere. He wanted not to be surrounded by people. And we looked at, I don't know, probably I looked at about a dozen places for him,
Mhm.
narrowed it down to about six that he looked at with me, and then he chose one and he bought it.
Oh,
So,
nice, nice.
it's the sort of thing that, I can take on what you want. I can look at some places and then draw up a short list, and
Well,
then we
and
can
you
have a look.
understand things too. That's the other thing. When you move into a country, terminology is different. How
Oh
things
yeah,
work is different. I mean, even though,
yep.
even, we need, I remember having to take transformers for things or just buy
Oh yeah,
the appliances are different.
yes,
Do you want to move things over or just buy when you get there?
yeah.
Because things are different, how water works, all of that is a different thing, even stoves. I mean, and as we travel
Mm,
full time, every house that Nancy and I are in pet setting is different. It's like, okay, now how
yes.
do you use this stove? Uh-oh,
Oh.
maybe we're just going to eat salad and ask and, order pizza. I don't want to
And the
blow anything up.
showers. Every
Oh,
shower is different.
oh my gosh, I know. So, but to understand things is a crucial thing, how
Oh
things
yes,
work in England.
yes,
That's something like, even in this country, how electricity is run is
yeah,
completely different. Like Texas is cooperative, whereas the rest of the country is not like that, or maybe it is.
right,
Some places with their trash is different. So I think
yes,
it helps to have a local who can, I know that you're all
definitely.
speaking English, but everyone's accents are different wherever you
Oh,
go.
of course.
But and America too. But it's helpful to have someone that knows how to live there, you know?
Yeah, and also, I own property, so therefore I know the system. I know how estate agents work, with realtors, I
Yeah,
think you call them.
yeah.
Estate. I know how solicitors work.
Is that what you
I'm
call them? House solicitors?
no, we have estate agents who sell the houses,
You don't say
and
real estate. We call them real estate agents or realtors.
yeah, yeah, we don't. We call them estate agents.
Oh,
But I know how they work. I know how the solicitors work to do all the legal side of things. I'm not giving legal advice, but I know who to put you in touch with. So you make sure
That's
you tick all
helpful.
the boxes, you know, and things like that, which are very useful to know what the local way of buying a house is. I mean,
Mm,
I was talking to an American estate agent only last week, and he was explaining the American system, which is different to our system, because it seems that you have a buying agent as well as a selling agent. Well, we don't, there's only the estate agent, and then we as buyers go and have a look at the property and make our own minds up. Yeah,
mm,
we don't have an agent go with us to look at a property. Well, we have a look at the seller's agent. He normally comes and shows us around, but we buy properties on our own, and
mm.
then we instruct a solicitor. But them sorts of things. I know builders. So if you have a property and you think, well, actually, I'd like to know how much it would cost to build an extension or to knock this wall down, or I can get you a builder to come
Mm,
along with us and give you a price on building work.
mm.
It's them sorts of things that you
Now,
need to know.
let's go back to the English terminology here. Remember we did that one show? So you're
Oh,
talking about solicitors. So over here, solicitor, people have signs outside their windows, no solicitors. In other words, don't come and be a salesperson at my door.
right.
And, there's all kinds of people knocking at your door. Let me do your roof for
Yeah,
$5.
yeah,
Do
yeah.
not answer that call. Do
Yeah.
not do it. Don't let the flim flam in. When you say solicitor, what is a solicitor to you?
A solicitor is someone who practices legal stuff. So
Okay, like a lawyer.
a lawyer, yeah. So
Okay.
he or she is going to be the one who will draw up all the contracts about, you know, say for instance, you were going to buy one of the cottages behind you. He would draw up the all the contracts about buying that. He would make sure that the vendor makes a list of all the things that they know about the property. He would make sure that all the boundaries are correct. He would make sure that
Wow.
all the legal forms and all the bits and pieces are ticked, so that you don't go and buy a property. Then next week the council say, well, actually, that building was put up without permission, so you're going to have to knock it down. So he makes sure that everything is done properly,
Mm,
and well, in theory, and then you can go ahead and buy with confidence. Whereas if you
mm.
didn't have a solicitor or a legal representative, you're then leaving yourself open to all sorts of problems.
I know a lot of people that just want something small as
Yeah,
like a summer haven or whatever to go over. Maybe they
yeah,
do some business in England and or they just really love going so much that it's like
yeah,
we're going to England for a month or two, coming home. So they kind of split their time, but their main residence is still here in the States.
yeah,
So they're looking for something small, not something massive, but the historical charm gets them. Either they want it like a flat in the city, so it's really
yeah.
accessible for walking, but you have transportation all over England. That's not
The
hard to get around.
transportation, yeah, is really, really good. I mean, most places are within, a few miles of somewhere,
Mm,
so you can pick a bus up. And then obviously towns, most of them have got really good bus links.
mm.
And then you've got train links from all of the reasonable sized towns and cities.
So when someone wants a second property and they're like gone for 2 to 3 months, do you have what we call, property management or property manager, companies like that that will
Yes.
help rent it out for them?
Yes, there are, but you have to be very careful, obviously,
Okay.
because there are some fly-by-night people who will just take your money and actually do nothing for it. So again, that's where a local person would be good to say, well, yeah, them ones are good ones, but don't touch them with a barge pole.
Okay.
Them sorts of, yeah, it's local knowledge, isn't it? Like everything else, if you've got someone who is on the spot, then they know whether a company is reliable and reputable rather than
Mm.
just a company that you get out of the yellow pages or off the internet, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who really shouldn't be doing what they're doing, I'm afraid.
Okay. So that's again the local thing is what you want to do and get to know the area, talk to people like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, got a great property management I've been working with for years,
exactly.
that's what
Yeah,
you want to have. Okay.
yeah,
So what about if you buy something historic? and it needs to be fixed up here. Depending on where you live, sometimes there's a historical preservation society.
Yep.
You have to go with by code. You can't just go put pink walls up if you want to.
Nope.
No, you
Nope.
have that too?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, we have grade two listing, grade one listing, things like that. So, for instance, the building behind me will be a grade one listed building. The buildings behind you could easily be grade two listing. Now, a grade one building will generally have in it that you cannot do anything without permission. And that means anything. The grade two, very few buildings are going to be grade one listed. You know, things like churches, great big halls, mansions, them sorts of things, they're often grade one. Grade two are quite common. Most towns and villages will have a grade two listed
Uh-huh.
building. And that just means that you can't change the facade, you can't change anything that is connected to the building. So if the
Okay.
people who own the house behind you wanted to change the windows, they can't just put in great big single pane glass windows. They have to put windows that match the windows that are already there. They need to be
Okay.
made of wood, for instance. They wouldn't be
Hmm.
allowed to put in plastic windows in a house like that. You know,
Okay.
they wouldn't be able to um, put tiles on the roof. They wouldn't be able to paint the house bright orange. You know, it would have to be a color that fits in with the area that it is. So,
That's
you
good
know,
though.
yeah,
That
of
keeps
course
the
it is.
integrity
It
of
protects.
why, and that's why you moved there in the first place.
Well, exactly. Why would you want to go and put something stupid in a building like that, you know? So it's
Mm.
protecting the building, it's protecting the street scene, it's protecting the building itself, you know, because if you
Hmm.
go and put on top of one of these buildings tiles, for instance, the roof is going to be a lot heavier than
Hmm.
thatch. So therefore
Okay.
the house might collapse. So
Mm.
it, you know, it wouldn't be any good putting, you know, tiles on a roof like that because of the weight. You know, so lots
Now,
and lots of reasons.
yeah, and I think too, over here we're having a huge shift of how things are happening because of the internet. So we have a lot of shopping centers or malls, as they say here.
Yeah, yeah,
And
too.
okay, so in South Africa, they were not, it was just different. We had malls, but like here, it's like an institution. It was part of the cultural thing to do is go watch a movie, go to eat, go shop, and kids hang out there. And I don't remember malls in England. Maybe it's just that we weren't that kind of, we just didn't,
No,
we were at the
it's
beach or hiking or something. Yeah.
yeah, but
You
it's
know,
a relatively recent thing in England, you know, only over the last 20 years, 15, 20 years.
okay, well, ours are going away. And so we're having these massive malls because people have gone online. So like shops now are pretty much in downtown districts, some plazas and stuff like that, little like outdoor, like it's not all under a roof. Well, everybody's under a roof, but it's like you can go to the shop's door from the outside. You don't have to go
Right.
inside to get to it, right?
Yeah.
So they're starting to change these malls into like apartments and like different like workspaces, apartments, and even industrial areas. Some old
Right.
hotels are being turned into homes for veterans or for the elder. Like we're seeing this
Yeah.
transition happen. Is that happening in England too?
It's happening a lot with office blocks
Okay,
because now, especially after COVID, a lot
right.
of offices are now surplus to requirements because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are working from home. So
Mm,
therefore, a lot of these big office blocks in the middle of towns and cities are not used anymore. So they're trying to repurpose them into apartments or flats, as
okay.
we call. So,
Hmm.
you know, there are a lot of opportunities for people to buy what we sort of call in London, we would call it a crash pad. So it's just somewhere to crash. So it's not
Hmm.
going to be a fantastic big apartment. It's just going to be a bed, a kitchen, and a bathroom, basically. So you can buy little things like that quite
If you're
easily.
coming for a little holiday, I mean, that's not bad. That's not a bad idea.
No, no.
Or even for a
I mean, that's
student,
fine.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, for a student, that's all they want. You know,
Yeah.
so, you know, crash pads are quite popular in places like London. Um,
Okay.
but you can buy a nice little flat in England, you know, 2 bedroom flat, you know, with a nice living room, kitchen, you know, everything you need.
Mm,
So I mean, they are now becoming more popular because obviously they're cheaper than houses,
mm-hmm.
and it's all
Yeah.
about it's all about affordability, isn't it?
It's what you can afford and understanding that you may have to do work on it. There's upkeep after you buy something, as we all
Of course,
know. You buy
yeah.
something, that's the beginning. That is the
Oh,
beginning. But your return is big and it's yours, you know. Now,
yeah.
for those who watch Keeping Up Appearances with Hyacinth Bouquet, not
Oh,
Bucket,
yeah.
um, she really wanted to live in a castle. And remember her taking Richard around. He's like, "Oh no, here goes the bank account." You know,
Yeah, yeah.
she's like, "Look at this castle, Richard, look at it." And I said castle, right? I did good. And
Castle.
he'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, Hyacinth, oh no." But she did get her accommodation in a castle, but it didn't quite work for him. But if people have that dream of living in a castle,
Yeah.
you really can do it. It doesn't mean you're getting the whole castle though, but it's like a flat within a castle.
There are quite a lot of really big houses that have been turned into, we'll call them flats, but I mean, a lot of them are called, a lot of them are sort of, you have a wing. So for instance, the
Yes.
house behind me, I know it isn't, it's a big house. So you could actually have that turned into 4 or 5 wings. So this little bit behind my head,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, this little bit could be one house, and then that bit over there could be another house. So you could own a really big house, but it's still part of another house. So
We lived like that.
a
Yeah,
lot of big
in England.
houses have done that. Yeah, it'd be
We
lovely.
in I think it was when we lived in Southport. We lived in a huge house
Yeah,
and it was not even like an apartment. You had part of the stairwell coming up into
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and we had one, two, three, and I mean I mean it was pretty spacious, you know,
Yes,
when I think of it, and it was historic, and there was parking, trees, and a huge backyard, and
yeah,
then a walking path, and we'd go picking blackberries down the walking path every day, and that's where I got to play with chestnuts and play knockers,
yes,
and we'd go down and play. Well, whatever you did that little thingy as kids, and then
yeah,
went
I
down.
know.
Don't start laughing. Don't make me laugh, Glenn. But we went walking down the little pathway, going and picking crab apples and all kinds of. It was. I wonder now if it was a Roman road because
Well, it
kind of
probably
looked like
was.
that. It might have been, but it was so. I'll never forget that because when we first went there, I was like, really? Like we've really moved on up here in life.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
then I was like, no, not quite. But then it was like, wow, it's still pretty amazing. And it wasn't, as a kid, I make a lot of noise. It was soundproof, honestly. It was pretty soundproof
I mean,
because there was such,
the walls are going to be massive.
yeah,
But I mean, you were saying about even buying a whole castle. I mean, you could, in theory, buy a place like is behind me,
like a
because
mansion.
sometimes like that they come up for sale, and you can buy them if you've got big enough pockets. But whatever you want, you can buy.
Wow. That's amazing to me because England's smaller, you know.
Yeah,
It's a little, it's an island. I look at you
yes,
as an island and I'm like, wow, they're
we
gonna
are.
let us buy real estate, like you look at Australia, I think you have to have a million bucks before they even think of allowing you
Oh, is
to.
that
I'm
right?
not
No,
sure. I don't know if I'm right about that. That was something a friend told me years ago. It could have changed because she was looking at moving to Australia and England. She was like, I want to go somewhere new. And I always think some people just want to go move somewhere.
hmm,
You may want to check it out first. You
I
know?
think so. I
Yeah,
think it's
don't
a good
just
idea.
don't just bolt, and go, "Oh, I'm
No,
going to go buy something," and don't buy it online without going. It's
no,
different. It's not like buying a car online.
no.
It's a little bit different. I mean, you can rent somewhere online and get, that's temporary. But
Yeah,
buying is a little bit more of a deal. So, unless
definitely.
you've
So
got
you need
endless
to
wealth, which,
try
go for it.
before you buy. Try
Yeah.
before you buy.
Yeah, yeah, go to the neighborhoods, go to the villages, you know, all of that good stuff. So, Glenn, this is fun. What a whole different conversation. We never
Yeah.
run out of things to talk about, do we?
we've got all of England to talk about,
and Scotland
well,
and Wales and
and
France. And
Scotland
that,
and Wales.
well, that's, that brings another good point of why I know people wanting to move to England is that it's like a launching pad. Like if your visa is running out, right? If you need to get out, that every 6 month thing,
Mhm.
they just go over to France and then Germany. Like they go over the little
Yeah,
tunnely thing that you
yeah,
have, the tunnely thing.
a little old tunnely thing.
I went under a tunnel the other day when we were driving across country, and we drove under the tunnel, and it was in Mobile, Alabama. There's this tunnel.
All right.
And every time I go under there, I think about the English Channel going, is this what it's like going under? And then I'm like, are we under what? What are we under? Like, I start to
Yeah.
kind of flip
Well,
out.
funnily enough, some of my first customers were from Mobile in Alabama.
No way.
Yeah, they
Well,
were. Yeah, I hope they're doing all right if they're listening. Good
yeah, yeah.
to see you if you
Mobile,
are.
Alabama is beautiful out there. It's
Is
beautiful.
it? But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Channel Tunnel, that you don't drive through the Channel Tunnel, you get on a train. So you drive your car onto a train and the train takes you through the tunnel.
Yeah, that sounds better.
It is.
Yeah. Because
I
you could
mean,
break down and that's a
it
pain.
would be very worrying because in England we drive on the left and in France we drive on the right. So if you were going through, if you were
Ooh.
driving through in the tunnel, where do you change over? There'd be a few accidents, wouldn't there?
Yeah, 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 I like the train idea better.
Much
Plus,
better.
I get weird about tunnels and bridges, and so then I might just like stop in the middle of it and just go, sorry,
No,
go around.
don't do
I
that.
would, no, no, I know. Well, that's why, when we come to England, you're driving. Yeah, I'm not driving. I'm off.
A
I'm
good
like,
idea.
that's my vacation time. But everyone, again, keep up with Glenn at norfolk-tours.co.uk. And of course, a link to his articles in the episode notes. Fun topic, always fun, Glenn. And I think we stayed on topic pretty good, right?
Yeah, we did.
Today.
We did nothing controversial, hardly.
Well, just wait. All right. Thanks, Glenn.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for Big Blend Radio's English Connection show with Glenn Burrows, owner of Norfolk Tours. If you're planning a vacation to England or looking up your family history in England, visit norfolk-tours.co.uk to connect with Glenn. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.